Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
The Tulsa Race Riot will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm B.J. Williams. Tim Madigan will tell us about his book, The Burning. Susie Beasley will talk with Phil Talbert. Kids Corner will feature Rosemary Sarsky. We also have Doug Benton, Evelyn Davis, and Claire Manning. Coming up, Tim Madigan.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Every year I go to the Oklahoma Book Awards banquet and talk with a number of the finalists that are there. This last March I was able to talk with Tim Madigan, who is an award-winning writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. In fact, in 1996 and 1997 he was named Outstanding Reporter of the Year in Texas, and his book, The Burning, was a finalist for this year's Oklahoma Book Award. The book is about the Tulsa Race Riot, and I think you'll enjoy what Tim had to say about his book. Tim, what inspired you to write a book about the Tulsa Race Riots?
Well, until early in the year 2000, I had never heard of the Tulsa Race Riot, and a wire story on the Tulsa Race Riot Commission crossed my desk at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram about that time, and I thought to myself, how in the world could we not have heard about such a terrible thing? So I went up to Tulsa and I did a piece about the riot for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and after that was published, a literary agent in Dallas noticed the story and asked me if I'd be interested in pursuing a book, and one thing led to another, and there you go.
Well, I would imagine that doing the research on it could be difficult, couldn't it?
Well, the research was challenging, there's no question, but I found it to be one of the most interesting periods of my career, the first time that I had really dug into historical research per se. Of course, I interviewed as many of the survivors of the riot, both white and black, or people who were living at that time, and had relevant reminiscences, as many of them as I could. But I also spent many, many hours in the Tulsa Public Library going over newspaper accounts of that time and court documents, and fortunately other people, historians, journalists, etc., had attempted to write things about the riot in the past and had interviewed survivors back in the 70s, people who would have been teenagers or young adults at the time. And so that was a real great source, a treasure of information for me too.
Well, you had mentioned one in particular, a young, well-to-do white girl. She was apparently quite young when the race riots happened, and she did a lot of interviewing, but I believe the results were never published. She just collected the interviews?
Well, I managed to come across the transcripts of her interviews that she had done over the course of probably 30 years, 300 or 400 pages of transcripts interviewing dozens of survivors and white people, even 3 members of the KKK, and she had compiled them loosely, and even given her work a title, but it had never been published. And her name is Ruth Avery, and that was one of the richest sources of information I had. And I was very pleased to be able to use it, and I thank Ruth profusely in the acknowledgments to the book. Unfortunately, right about the time that the book was published, she passed away, and so I hope that she knew finally that her labors of those many years had been put to good use, and I think really contributed to the public understanding of what happened.
One of the things I appreciated about the book was the way you set the stage. When you talked about just touching on the history of the Jim Crow laws and birth of the nation, and just sort of the general atmosphere in this part of the country, I think that without that, perhaps the reader might have had more difficulty in the reader of today, of 2001, understanding what was going on in 1920s Tulsa.
Well, when I started the research, and I was born and raised in a tiny little town in the upper Midwest in northern Minnesota where there weren't a lot of black people, hardly any black people, and for most of my life, issues of race and racial history weren't terribly relevant. And so I had assumed, not knowing any better, that what happened in Tulsa, 300 people dead and 35 square blocks obliterated as it was, that this had cropped up as some sort of grotesque historical accident. But what I found out instead, once I started doing the research, was that it was, rather than an accident, it was a metaphor for that period in our history. And while it was easily the worst incident of its kind in our history, it was completely consistent with what was going on in the country in the 100 years after the Civil War. And I didn't understand that until I started doing the research, and so I'm hoping that that's one of the things that the reader comes away with, is that sense of context and that sense of history, however difficult it might be to look at. And it was very important to me to put Tulsa in that context, because I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also appreciated the approach you took of telling it from the point of view of as many people as possible, because we learned a little bit about the individual background, which I think helped us understand why, once this situation reached a trigger point, you might say, that these people acted the way they did, and as you said, 300 people ended up dead. Well,
just from the riot had been written about by other people and other writers over the years, but from a relatively detached point of view. And what I was, for a couple of different reasons, I really wanted to as best as I was able, to humanize what had happened. And because real people died and real people suffered. And this wasn't kind of a broad, real human drama played out there. The second part of that, from a writer's perspective, is I know, and early in the research, my agent and I were talking that we felt we had to identify several major characters in the book and flesh them out as much as we could, and try to write as a novelist would, and provide a sense of narrative and a sense of story, so people would get drawn into the book and want to read it, and thereby find, so the book would find a larger audience. It's important to me that people read this book, and I wanted to write it in such a way that was, even as awful as it was, that it would be compelling enough that people would want to read it.
Well, I have read some of those kinds of books that you talk about that are very detached, and I think they're unsuccessful because they are not written with passion. It's the writer's passion and his need to tell a story that draws me, the reader, into it and gets me involved. So I want to know, well, what on earth did that man do? Why did he do it? Did he live through it?
Right.
Sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I've talked to people who've read the book who say that they have identified with various characters, and they wanted to kind of keep going to find out if, what happened to Dick Roll and the guy in the elevator and all these various characters, and I just think that is essential for books of this sort. I wanted it to be a popular history. I didn't want it to be a textbook. As important as textbooks are, I wanted it to be accessible and compelling to everyone.
Well, there are a lot of us who are past our textbook reading stages who never heard of this. It was certainly never mentioned when I was in school.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think you're going to reach a lot more people with the popular. And I think you will with this book. And I think you already have with a lot of them, too.
Well, I hope so. I feel very strongly about the book. I feel very strongly about the issue. I'm kind of a new convert to, as Don Ross, the state legislator, used to call me an ignorant white boy when I started this Don, the kind of the grandfather or the father of the Tulsa Race Riot Commission. And it's really changed my life learning about the history. And I am naive enough to think that there are lots of other, particularly white people like there out me, who are just unaware of what our history was. And once they learn about it, I think it'll make a difference in the nation in ways that we can't even imagine right now.
I think so too. And I want to thank you very much for being with us tonight.
It's my pleasure.
We've had with us tonight Tim Madigan telling us about his book, The Burning, which is about the Tulsa race riot. You can find this book at your library and your favorite bookstore. I hope you enjoyed that look at The Burning. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Phil Taubert about a video I think all parents will be interested in.
Hi, Phil. Can you give us an idea about what this video is about, this infant and toddler emergency first aid?
Well, this is an older video back in the year 1994. However, it gives some good general guidelines on what to do in the area of first aid for children, for infants and for toddlers. It talks about how to prepare, the concept at least, of preparing a first aid kit, doing other kinds of preventative types of things, and then it gives general ideas on how to take care of individual illnesses and things as they occur.
And accidents, too.
Accidents as well, yes.
So
yes.
How is the video arranged?
Okay, it starts out with just a general idea of how to prepare a first aid kit and some of the items that you would put into a first aid kit, such as scissors and tape and gauze and bandages and things like that. And it even recommends that you have one in each car. So it's very good to give you the general concepts there for how to prepare a first aid kit, and then you can update it, of course, with new ideas and things that would pertain in this day and age. Then it talks about how to get all the numbers that you need, phone numbers, listed somewhere and posted somewhere where anyone, babysitters, any other family members, can have access to that in the event of an emergency. And of course, it talks about child-proofing your home, which is a very important thing.
The child-proof locks on
the locks,
and
things on stairways to keep the child from falling down the stairs, making sure that the cribs don't have the bars too close to each other
and
or
the
too
window
far from each
blind.
other. Oh, yes, and making sure that there's no way that the windows would open up and they would fall out and things like that. So it kind of gives you some good guiding principles that you can always apply whenever you're preparing for children.
And what's the running time of this
It's
video?
about 36 minutes. It's a good safety training type of video for anyone who's trying to get themselves prepared for any type of potential thing that could happen. And it talks about illnesses and specific things like burns and stings and nosebleeds and some of the general things that you would need to be able to do for those things as well.
So what else does the library system have that would complement this video?
We have a lot of materials in a book as well as non-print materials on first aid, emergency preparedness, things of that nature. And then in addition, we have things on just general child development topics, which I think would be very helpful in this day and age as we're trying to do new things and
get children on their way. And keep them safe, too.
Exactly.
So it's good parenting skills also.
Right.
Well, Phil, we certainly appreciate you coming out here and sharing with us Infant and Toddler Emergency First Aid, Volume 1 on accident. This video is available at the local library and perhaps your local video store. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you spend 15 minutes a day reading to a child, you're doing more than reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Penny McCaleb, Chairman of your Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love reading, they will also become better students. Our children's librarians will be happy to help you select just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
Doug Benton is here. He's going to listen when I tell him about a really neat book, Doug.
Actually, it looks very interesting. It's a book about
It's a book about books.
Okay.
It's called the Smithsonian Book of Books. And it really is the story of books. It starts out by saying that the book is probably the most intellectual creation man has ever come up with. And I really like books because not only do you not have to reinvent the wheel, you don't even have to remember how the wheel was invented the first time, because you can go look it up. It's right there. You don't have to remember it. But this is takes a look really from the first writing, with clay tablets, and then they developed to the papyrus scrolls. Which are difficult to, if you're in the middle of it, if you want to remember what was at the beginning, then you have to unroll all of that.
Yeah, how do you use a bookmark?
How do you
can't dog-ear them, can you?
Can't dog-ear them. You have to put tags on them to even know what they are. They're hard to store. So sometime actually at the very beginning of the Common Era, somebody got the idea of just folding the papyrus sheets and putting something hard on either end of them, and all of a sudden you had a book.
Had a book, yeah.
And it was actually the early Christians that made codexes popular as opposed to scrolls, because they put the Gospels, one Gospel would fit in a book. But this is the story of books, of typeface, of the invention of movable type, which happened actually first in Korea, would you believe?
Oh, I thought the Europeans took credit for that one.
Well, they do, but the Koreans came up with it first. The Chinese had been working on woodblock printing, but the Koreans, with their much smaller number of figures, or not letters, but their writing, were able to come up with movable type about 50 years before Gutenberg did.
Okay, Gutenberg is the name that we all hear. Everybody knows about the Gutenberg Bible. Does he get all the credit he deserves? Does he
Yes.
get too much credit?
All the credit he deserves. He's the one who invented the press, the movable type, the whole bit. You're going to have to read the book to find out more, because we're out of time, Doug. But
Always.
the Smithsonian Book of Books, you can find it at your library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up is Kids Corner. I got a chance to talk with Rosemary Zarsky about a book for our young people. Okay, Rosemary, what have you got tonight?
We have Grover G. Graham and Me, which is by Mary Quattlebaum, and it's a story of an 11-year-old kidnapper.
Oh dear, this sounds kind of deep, Rosemary.
Well, you would think so, but Ben has been a foster child for several years now. He's been in 7 foster homes in 6 years, all of which were supposed to be permanent, and now he's going to a temporary home until they can find another permanent home for him. And when he gets there, there is a baby, a 1-year-old baby named Grover G. Graham, whose mother is trying to get him back. She's realized that what she did in abandoning him was wrong, and she wants him back, and she's trying to learn parenting skills to get him back. But Ben's not sure he wants to trust her. He's not going to give her any slack whatsoever. And parents make mistakes, and every one she makes, he's shoving it in her face big time. And then he decides, when he hears that Tracy is getting Graham back, that he's going to take care of him. And he does. He steals from his foster parents some money to get a bus ticket, and he and Graham go for a bus ride.
Oh dear.
And it's kind of interesting. You know, he's worrying about what he's done all along, but he still feels he's done the right thing. But of course he's caught, and he has to face the repercussions. But to his surprise, he doesn't have to face them alone. His foster parents are right there with him, and they are with him, giving him moral support and trying to convince him that he should want to stick around a while. He doesn't have to leave, because right now the only option is the foster orphanage. And so it's in a way sad, but it's very, very uplifting. He's a wonderful protagonist, and I think kids in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade are going to love reading about him.
Well, it sounds like he is coping very well for his age with things that probably some adults would have grave difficulty handling.
Oh, yeah.
Moving that often, and everything is temporary, and you can't depend on anybody. I can see.
Well, that's true, but he has to learn to feel again. He has to learn not to just, okay, that's the past, we're not thinking about it anymore. You can't live life, a rich life, that way. And so these new parents are showing him that. And so it's got a good, hopeful ending.
Great. Thank you, Rosemary. Remember, you can find Grover G. Graham and Me at your library and your favorite bookstore. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is Partner in Crime by J.A. Jantz, Stone Kiss by Faye Kellerman, 11th Hour by Catherine Coulter, A Love of My Own by E. Lynn Harris, The Nanny Diaries by Emma McLaughlin and Nicola Krauss, The Beach House by James Patterson and Peter DeYoung, Standing in the Rainbow by Fannie Flagg, The Remnant by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold is number 2, and Tom Clancy's Red Rabbit is number 1. On the nonfiction list, A Mind at a Time by Mel Levine, Tuxedo Park by Jeanette Conant, The Art of Travel by Elaine de Botton, Good to Great by Jim Collins, Among the Heroes by Jerry Longman, The Lobster Chronicles by Linda Greenlaw, Stupid White Men by Michael Moore, The Right Words at the Right Time, edited by Marlo Thomas, Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Miss is number 2, and Ann Coulter's Slander is number 1. On the children's list, number 10 is The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket, Lemony Snicket, The Unauthorized Autobiography, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, Artemis Fowl, The Arctic Incident by Ian Colfer, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, Junie B. First Grader at Last by Barbara Park, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. Number 2 is Junie B. First Grader Boss of Lunch by Barbara Park, and number 1 is Rowling's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton from the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette. He'll be talking with Evelyn Davis from the Downtown Library, who's got a book she really wants to share with us.
Hello again, everybody. This is Doug Benton, and I'm here with Evelyn Davis. Evelyn, from the Downtown Library staff, good to see you again.
Thank you.
You have something that you want to talk to us about. It's Joseph Wambaugh's new book.
That is correct. This is the first book he has published since 1996.
Ooh.
It's called Fire Lover,
Okay.
A True Story.
So this is not a novel then? It's not one of his novels.
This
Okay.
is not a novel, as several of Wambaugh's books have not been. It is the true story of John Orr, a firefighter in California, who has a good side and a bad side. Classic Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Oh, yeah?
He rises through the ranks of the fire department to become one of its most skillful arson investigators, conductor of seminars, and is arrested after having been discovered setting a series of arson fires, including one that killed 4 people.
Ouch.
He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and Wambaugh, during the course of his extremely meticulous research for this book, was granted access to Wambaugh's remarks in prison, the help of the fire department, the police department, and I would say one of the most damning things that Wambaugh did was write a true story, quasi-fictional novel based on his experiences, which was so detailed, so parallel to what happened, that the defense was unable to refute the parallels, and it contributed to his conviction.
Oh, you're talking about the character of the book?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You said that Wambaugh hasn't published in 6 or 7 years.
That is
This is
correct.
the first thing out. How does this stack up with his earlier works?
Frankly, I consider it a mixed bag. He will dip into and out of his characteristic smart aleck police lingo.
Yeah.
At times he will be very, very solemn. Other times it's the kind of lingo that you hear in the Choir Boys, the Glitter Dome, and so forth.
Okay. How does he approach the characterization? I mean, you've talked a little bit about the policeman, and he was a policeman, Wambaugh was. How does the characterization of firefighters differ from the characterization of policemen, say?
This strikes directly on the character's, quote, dark side. Firemen are loved. Policemen are feared, hated, resented, but everyone loves a fireman. And one of the components of John Orr's dark side was that he wanted desperately to be recognized and to be loved.
Yeah. Any final comments on the book?
Simply that I hope he continues to write. I'd like to see him regain the rhythm that made his books at the top of the bestseller lists.
All right, that's Evelyn Davis talking about Joseph Wambaugh's new book, Fire Lover. Thank you. Thank all of you. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Doug and Evelyn. After a short break, we'll be back with Heidi Port talking with another one of our teen volunteers, Claire Manning from the Village Library.
When you read to your child for just 15 minutes a day, you're doing so much more than just reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Elisa Johnson with the Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love to read, but they'll be a better student. Our children's librarian will help you find just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
So Claire, what book did you bring for us today?
I brought Emma by Jane Austen.
Oh, great. And what was your favorite part about this book?
I really liked the ending when Emma finally realized that she was in love with Mr. Knightley, and I just loved the book, the whole thing.
Can you tell me a bit about the author?
Jane Austen was born on December 16, 1775, at the Steventon Parsonage in Hampshire, England. Though her school ended at age 9, her father continued her education. She had several marriage proposals but never married, and lived with her family until her death in 1817.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me why you identify with this author? What is it about her that you like?
I just love her writing style. I mean, the time period, I love the very, I can't think of a word to describe it, just this writing style is wonderful.
Very descriptive and fun to read.
I love 18th century, 19th century literature a lot.
Can you tell me some of the other books that Jane Austen has written?
Jane Austen wrote 5 other novels: Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion.
And do you like any of her other books?
Yes, I've read Northanger Abbey and Sense and Sensibility, and Sense and Sensibility is my favorite book, actually. I really like that one.
And do they run along the same lines as Emma, or are they different?
They're pretty similar overall. They're usually romantic and just wonderful books, all of them.
Good. And have you ever heard, I love Jane Austen too, she's my favorite author. Have you ever heard of the Jane Austen mystery series?
No.
You'll have to check it out in the library system. It's very good. It's written by a woman who pretends that she has found manuscripts of Jane Austen's and then writes mysteries about them.
Oh, how cool.
I think you really enjoy those.
Yeah.
So about Emma, can you tell me a little bit about what was your favorite part of this book?
Well, I really disliked all of it. I liked how, I liked the ending a lot. It was a very happy ending. I won't go into details if you have to read it, but overall, it's just every part of it was enjoyable to me.
Really? And is it a good summer read, do you think? Or?
It's a good book for summer because it's kind of longer, and so, if you aren't a big reader, you have a lot of time to read it, but yes, it is a very good book for summer.
And have you seen any of the movies that have been based on this book?
Yes. I've seen Clueless. And while reading this, I was kind of surprised to realize that was based off of this. But yeah, I've seen that movie, and that was very good, though.
So that was interesting how they brought it into modern times and made it,
it was really
relatable. Very good. Well, Claire, thank you so much for coming and sharing Emma with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Love this book, and I could talk about it all day, and I might have to go home and read it now. So I appreciate your being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi and Claire. Don't forget to check out the library at our website, www.metrolibrary.org. You can find out where our libraries are, how often they're open. You can also find out what programs are available, both for young people, toddlers, and adults. Those will be listed, as well as will the Read About It lineup. And you can also access all of our library holdings and put books, CDs, and so on hold. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this